My son wouldn't look at me when he said it. "Dad, you're embarrassing the family." It wasn't shouted. It was worse than that. It was controlled, measured, almost rehearsed. We were standing outside the university auditorium. Parents in tailored suits, luxury cars lined along the curb, and me in a jacket that had seen too many winters. He adjusted his tie like I wasn't part of the picture. I almost left, but I stayed. Because 10 minutes later, the dean stepped to the podium, paused, and said my name first. If you think this story is about pride, stay with me. It's about perception and the quiet moment that changed how my son saw me forever. The campus looked like it belonged in a brochure. Brick buildings, polished walkways, banners hanging from lampposts with gold lettering announcing the annual academic honors ceremony. I walked slower than everyone else, not because I was tired, because I didn't belong to this world of tailored confidence and quiet wealth. My son, Adrian, walked 2 steps ahead of me, not beside me. 2 steps. That distance felt intentional. He had always been sharp, top of his class, debate team captain, the kind of student professors mentioned as examples. I was proud of him, fiercely. But pride doesn't always translate into approval. "Dad, maybe just don't talk too much in there," he said as we approached the auditorium entrance. I stopped walking. "Don't talk too much?" He sighed, the kind of sigh teenagers give when they believe they're being patient. "Just let me handle conversations. Some of these families are, well connected." "Well connected," I repeated. He nodded. I understood what he meant. I worked maintenance at a municipal building, 48 years old, hands that carried more calluses than credentials. My suit was clean, but older than some of the students walking past us. "I'm not going to embarrass you," I said quietly. He hesitated before answering. "I just don't want people getting the wrong impression." Wrong impression? Of him or me? We entered the auditorium. The air smelled like polished wood and expensive perfume. Parents greeted each other like business partners. Quick smiles, firm handshakes, controlled laughter. Adrian's shoulders straightened the moment he spotted his classmates. He stepped further ahead. A woman in a navy blazer approached him. "Adrian, your father?" she asked, glancing at me briefly. "Yes," he said. The word felt reluctant. "Nice to meet you," she said to me, her smile polite but already fading. "Likewise," I replied. I saw it in Adrian's eyes. The discomfort, the micro-flinch when I spoke, like my voice might confirm something he was trying to edit out. We took our seats halfway down the aisle. The program listed several awards, scholarships, research recognitions, leadership citations. Adrian was nominated for one of the top honors. He deserved it. I leaned over slightly. "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you." He didn't look at me. "Thanks." The ceremony began. Speeches about excellence, about legacy, about the future. I listened carefully, not because I understood every reference, but because I understood effort. Halfway through the program, a parent behind me whispered, "Which firm are you with?" I turned slightly. "Maintenance supervisor for the city," I said. There was a pause. Oh. That single syllable carried more weight than a full sentence. I faced forward again. Adrian's jaw tightened. He heard it. Minutes later, during a short intermission, he leaned toward me. "You didn't have to say that," he muttered. "Say what?" "About your job." I blinked. "That's my job." He rubbed his forehead. "You could have just said you're in operations or something." "So it sounds better?" "So it doesn't stand out." There it was, Stand out. Not excellence, not pride. Difference. I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger, something quieter. Disappointment. You think I'm embarrassing you? He didn't deny it immediately. That's not what I said. You didn't have to. He looked away. The ceremony resumed. More awards, more applause. Then the dean approached the podium for the final segment. This year, the dean began, we want to recognize not only academic achievement, but the foundation behind it. I didn't pay much attention at first, until I heard Adrian's name. He sat straighter. The dean continued. Adrian Kessler has demonstrated exceptional discipline and resilience. When asked in his application essay who influenced his work ethic most, he did not name a professor or mentor. My ears sharpened. He wrote about watching his father work double shifts for years, about learning dignity from someone who never apologized for honest labor. The room grew quieter. I stopped breathing for a second. The dean looked up from the paper. Would Mr. Kessler please stand? For a moment, I thought he meant Adrian, but then several heads turned toward me. My name had been read, not as an embarrassment, as an influence. I stood slowly. The auditorium felt enormous. Applause began, not explosive, but steady. I didn't look at the crowd. I looked at my son. His face had gone pale, not from shame, from realization. He had written that essay months ago, before internships, before polished networking events, before he started curating impressions. The dean continued speaking about unseen sacrifices, about foundations built quietly. I barely heard the rest. Adrian stared at me like he was seeing two versions of me colliding, the one he'd tried to minimize and the one he'd once admired without filters. When I sat back down, he didn't say anything, but he didn't lean away either. The ceremony ended with applause and standing ovations. Students hugged parents, photos were taken, conversations resumed. Adrian remained seated for a moment longer. Dad. His voice sounded different, not defensive, unsteady. I didn't think they would read that part. I nodded. But you wrote it. He swallowed. Yes. And for the first time that afternoon, he looked at me without measuring how I appeared. We didn't rush out of the auditorium. Most families moved quickly, gathering near the stage for photos. Laughter echoed. Heels clicked against polished floors. Faculty members shook hands like they were closing deals. Adrian stayed seated. His program booklet rested loosely in his hands. I wrote that essay before things got intense, he said. Intense? I asked. With internships, networking events, expectations. He didn't look at me when he said it. He was staring at the stage, now empty. I didn't think they would highlight you, he added quietly. Why not? Because it wasn't supposed to be emotional. I let that sit. Hard work is emotional, I said. He exhaled through his nose. Not dismissive, just thinking. People started clearing out. Rows emptied around us. The noise shifted from applause to chatter. A professor approached us. Mr. Kessler, he asked, extending his hand to me. Yes, I'm Professor Halden. I teach Adrian's advanced economics seminar. We shook hands. You should be proud. He's disciplined in a way that can't be taught. I glanced at Adrian. I am proud, I said. The professor smiled and moved on. Adrian watched him go. I didn't tell anyone about the essay. You didn't have to. I kind of moved past it, Past what? Past the part where that was the story. I turned toward him slightly. And what's the story now? He hesitated. That I'm building something bigger. Bigger than what? Than just surviving. That word hit. Surviving. Was that how he saw our life before? A series of survival moves? I never thought of it that way, I said. That's because you never complained, he replied. There was something in his tone, not accusation, not exactly admiration either, just confusion. We stood up and moved toward the lobby. A group of his classmates approached. Adrian, that was powerful. Your essay. I didn't know your dad worked city maintenance. Adrian stiffened for half a second. Then he did something small. Yeah, he's been with the city for 23 years. There was no apology in his voice this time. No hesitation, just fact. The classmate nodded respectfully at me. That's solid. Solid. Not glamorous, not prestigious. Solid. We stepped outside into the sunlight. The air felt different than when we arrived. Less tight, more exposed. Adrian's phone buzzed repeatedly. Notifications, messages from classmates, from group chats. He glanced at the screen. They're all talking about that part. The essay? Yeah. His jaw flexed slightly. Is that bad? I don't know. We walked toward the parking lot. The expensive cars were still lined neatly along the curb. A few parents stood near them, laughing. One of the mothers from earlier approached us again. Adrian, that was beautiful. She turned to me. You must be incredibly proud. I am, I replied. She nodded, but this time her smile didn't fade. When she walked away, Adrian looked unsettled. They're treating it like some inspirational story. Isn't it? He frowned. It wasn't supposed to define me. And does it? He didn't answer immediately. We reached my truck. Older model, faded paint, reliable. He stopped before getting in. Dad, can I ask you something? Sure. Did you ever wish you did something else? The question wasn't casual. No, I said. He blinked. Not even when you saw other people with more? More what? Money, status, easier lives. I leaned against the truck door. I wished for stability, I said, and I got it. He studied me like he was recalculating an equation. But you could have done more, he insisted. More doesn't always mean better, I replied. He crossed his arms. At school, it feels like everyone's aiming higher. Bigger firms, bigger titles, bigger lives. And you? I asked. I want that. That's fine. But today, he hesitated. Today, it felt like the room respected something different. I watched him carefully. You're not embarrassed now, I said quietly. He didn't respond right away. Then, almost reluctantly, he said, No. The word wasn't loud, but it was honest. We got into the truck. The engine started with its familiar rumble. As we pulled away, he stared out the window. I didn't realize they'd see you that way. How did you expect them to see me? As just my dad. I nodded slowly. And now? Now I'm not sure. We drove in silence for a few minutes. Then he spoke again. When I told you not to talk too much, I wasn't trying to hurt you. I know. I just didn't want to stand out. From what? From the image. That word again. Image. You know, image is easy to build. Character takes longer. He looked at me sharply. I didn't mean you don't have character. I didn't say you did. Silence settled between us, but it wasn't tense. It was reflective. At a red light, he turned slightly toward me. Do you think I'm shallow? The question surprised me. No, I said. What then? I think you're figuring out what matters. The light turned green. He leaned back in his seat. I don't want to lose what got me here,
he said quietly. You won't, unless you decide it's inconvenient. That landed. When we pulled into our driveway, he didn't rush out. He stayed seated for a moment longer. Dad. Yes? Thanks for standing up. I smiled faintly. I didn't really have a choice. You could have refused. No, I said. I couldn't. He nodded slowly. This time, when we got out of the truck, he walked beside me. Not 2 steps ahead, not behind. Beside.
The next week felt different. Not dramatic, not cinematic, subtle. Adrian moved through the house with less urgency, like something inside him had shifted and he was still adjusting to the new weight of it. On Tuesday evening, I found him at the kitchen table, laptop open, staring at a spreadsheet, but not really looking at it. You stuck? I asked. He looked up, almost startled. Yeah, no, just thinking. I poured myself a glass of water and sat across from him. About what? He hesitated. About how fast things change. That's vague, I said. He gave a faint smile. Before the ceremony, I was worried people would see where I came from. Now, I'm worried they'll expect something from it. Like what? Like I'm supposed to represent something. I leaned back in my chair. You already do. He frowned. I don't want to be the hard-working kid from a blue-collar family story. You're not. You're Adrian. He looked down at the table. That's not how narratives work at school, he replied, quietly. Narratives. I recognized that tone. Analytical, detached. The way he dissected social structures like case studies. You think they'll reduce you to that? I asked. Some of them already are. He tapped his phone and turned it toward me. A message thread from one of his classmates. Man, your dad is a legend. Real backbone stuff. Respect. He locked the screen. They didn't talk to me like this before. And that bothers you? I don't know. He ran a hand through his hair. I worked for years to compete with them on their level. Internships, networking, strategy. Now it feels like the thing that makes me stand out isn't what I built, it's what you built. That was honest. I respected that. Is that a bad thing? I asked. I don't want charity admiration. It's not charity. He exhaled slowly. It just feels like the axis shifted. Maybe it expanded, I said. He looked at me. Expanded how? Maybe now they see more dimensions. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he studied my hands on the table, the small scars, the thickened knuckles. You never tried to make your job sound bigger, he said. No. Why? Because it didn't need editing. He absorbed that quietly. Later that week, I noticed he had invited 2 classmates over to study. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was that he didn't warn me to stay out of sight. I was in the garage fixing a loose hinge when they arrived. He opened the side door. Dad, we're going to be upstairs. All right. One of his friends lingered for a second. Sir, that essay was powerful, the kid said. I nodded. Thanks. He glanced at the tools around me. My grandfather did maintenance work too, he added. I saw Adrian watching the exchange carefully. The friend continued. There's something steady about it, you know? Steady. That word again. After they went inside, I stayed in the garage longer than necessary. Not because I felt excluded, because I felt seen in a way I wasn't used to. Later that night, after his friends left, Adrian came downstairs. They asked a lot about you. And I answered. Without editing? He gave me a look. Without editing. There was a pause. I used to think I had to separate worlds, home and school, background and ambition. And now? I'm not sure they're separate. He sat down across from me. Can I ask something else? Go ahead. When you were my age, did you feel behind? The question caught me off guard. Behind who?
People with more access, more money, more connections. I considered it carefully. Yes, I admitted. And I realized I wasn't running their race. He stared at me. What if I am? Then make sure it's your choice. Silence settled between us. Not awkward, thoughtful. I think I was trying to outrun where I came from, he said quietly. And now? I'm not sure it was something to outrun. That was the shift. Not pride, recognition. Over the next few days, I noticed he spoke differently on the phone, less curated, more direct. He mentioned me in conversations without lowering his voice. It wasn't dramatic, just consistent. One evening, as we were washing dishes, he said something unexpected. I was embarrassed because I thought you'd expose something fragile in me. I stopped drying the plate. Fragile how? That I still care what people think. I smiled slightly. That doesn't make you fragile. It felt like it. He leaned against the counter. I thought if they saw you, they'd see a gap. Between what? Between where I started and where I'm trying to go. And now? He met my eyes. I think that gap might be the bridge. There it was, the recalibration, not of status, of perspective. He wasn't ashamed of me anymore, but more importantly, he wasn't ashamed of the part of himself that had once admired quiet effort without comparison. Before heading upstairs, he paused at the base of the steps. Dad? Yes? I'm glad they called your name first. I nodded. So am I. He didn't need to say more, because this wasn't about applause, it was about alignment. And for the first time in a long while, we were standing on the same ground.
A month passed. The ceremony faded from campus headlines, but something else stayed. Adrian started asking questions he hadn't asked before. Not about money, not about strategy, about history. One Saturday morning, he found me in the backyard fixing the old fence. When did you start working? He asked, leaning against the post. 14, I said, stocking shelves. Did you want something else? I tightened a bolt before answering. I wanted stability. That was enough. He nodded slowly. At school, stability sounds like settling. Depends who's defining it, I replied. He crouched down beside me. Do you ever feel like you sacrifice too much? There was weight behind that question. For you? I asked. For us, for Mom, for everything. I looked at him carefully. Sacrifice only feels heavy when you resent it. And you don't? No. He studied my face like he was searching for cracks. You make it sound simple. It wasn't simple. It was deliberate. That word landed. Deliberate. Later that week, he asked if I could attend a networking dinner on campus. Not as a guest, as his father. You sure? I asked. Yes. The hesitation was gone. The night of the dinner, I wore the same suit from the ceremony. Pressed, clean, unchanged. This time, Adrian didn't walk 2 steps ahead. He walked beside me. Inside the event hall, the atmosphere felt familiar. Polished conversations, measured laughter. But the difference wasn't the room. It was him. When a senior partner from a consulting firm asked about his background, Adrian answered without flinching. My dad works in municipal maintenance, he said evenly. He's been with the city for over 2 decades. No editing, no softer wording, just truth. The partner nodded thoughtfully. That kind of consistency is rare, the man said. Adrian didn't glance at me for validation. He just continued the conversation. At one point, the dean approached again. Mr. Kessler, he said warmly, good to see you. Adrian watched that exchange carefully, not with anxiety,
with awareness. Later, during dinner, Adrian leaned toward me. I used to think I had to distance myself to grow. And now, I think distance was just insecurity. That was honest. I respected it. After the event, we walked across campus under the streetlights. Students laughed in the distance. Music drifted from an open dorm window. "You know what scared me?" Adrian said. "What?" "That people would think I didn't belong if they saw where I came from. And now, I think belonging isn't about hiding roots, it's about owning them." He stopped walking for a moment. "I was afraid you'd expose something small in me." "And what did I expose?" He gave a slight smile. "That I care too much about perception. That's not small, it's human." We resumed walking. "I don't want to become someone who edits out the parts that built me." "You won't, if you stay aware." He looked at me sideways. "Are you angry about before?" "When?" "When I said you were embarrassing?" The memory surfaced quietly. "I was disappointed, not angry." He nodded. "I deserved that." "No," I replied. "You were figuring things out." We reached the parking lot. He didn't rush ahead this time. "Dad?" "Yes?" "If they hadn't called your name, do you think I would have changed?" That was a hard question. "Eventually," I said, "but it might have taken longer." He absorbed that. "So the applause mattered?" "No," I said. "The reminder did." He leaned against the truck door. "I forgot who influenced me before the pressure started." "That happens," I said. He exhaled slowly. "I don't want success to make me fragile." "It won't," I said, "unless you build it on comparison." He nodded. The next week, he made a decision that surprised me. He declined a high-paying internship that required relocating immediately after graduation. Instead, he chose a program that allowed him to stay closer for another year while finishing a research project he actually cared about. "You're sure?" I asked. "Yes." "Less money?" "I know." "Less prestige?" "I know." "Why?" He met my eyes steadily. "Because I don't want to chase optics." That word again. Optics. He had started to see through them. As we stood there in the driveway that night, I realized something. This wasn't about me being recognized. It wasn't about the dean calling my name. It was about Adrian remembering his own foundation and choosing not to erase it.
Graduation day arrived quietly. No dramatic build-up, no sudden transformations. Just a warm morning, folding chairs arranged across the university lawn, and families settling into rows with cameras and quiet expectations. This time, Adrian didn't adjust his pace when we walked in. He matched mine. Not performative, not symbolic, natural. We found our seats together. No distance, no careful positioning. As the ceremony began, I watched him differently than I had months before. Not worried about how he saw me, curious about how he saw himself. When his name was called, he walked across the stage, steady and composed. The applause was strong, earned. He didn't search the crowd for approval, but when his eyes found mine, he didn't look away. After the ceremony, while other families gathered in tight clusters for photos, Adrian stood beside me and handed his phone to a classmate. "Can you get one of us?" he asked. Us. We stood shoulder to shoulder, no careful angling, no minimizing. The photo was simple, no filters. Later, while walking toward the parking lot, he spoke in a tone I hadn't heard before. "Dad, I owe you something. You don't owe me. I do."
He stopped walking. "When I said you were embarrassing, I was really embarrassed of not knowing who I was becoming." I listened. "I thought I had to shape myself to match the room," he continued, "but I didn't realize I was cutting pieces off in the process." He paused. "The dean calling your name didn't change you. It exposed me." That was honest. "I don't regret that moment," he said, "even the part where I felt small." "Feeling small isn't permanent," I replied. "It was necessary," he said. We reached the truck. He leaned against it like he had that night after the ceremony. "Can I ask you one last thing?" "Go ahead." "If they hadn't applauded, if no one noticed, would you have still stood up?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because your words weren't written for applause." He nodded slowly. "That's what I misunderstood." We drove home without rushing. The campus disappeared behind us. A few days later, Adrian began his research position. Not flashy, not loud, focused. One evening, he came home later than usual. We sat at the kitchen table. "I had a conversation today," he said. "With who?" "One of the faculty advisors." "And?" "He said something about legacy." I raised an eyebrow. "What about it?" "He said most people inherit wealth or status. Some inherit narrative, but a few inherit discipline." He looked at me carefully. "I didn't understand that before." "And now?" "I do." He didn't say thank you again. He didn't need to. Weeks passed. Life settled. Adrian moved with more certainty, not louder, not more aggressive, more aligned. One afternoon, while cleaning out old boxes in the garage, he found a stack of time cards from years ago, paper slips marked with overtime hours. "You kept these?" he asked. "Some." "Why?" "Reminder," I said. "Of what?" "That effort compounds." He held one of the cards in his hand. "I used to think success was about acceleration," he said. "And now? I think it's about consistency." He folded the card carefully and handed it back. Months after graduation, Adrian was invited to speak at a small student event on resilience. He hesitated at first. "I'm not sure I'm the right person," he told me. "Why not?" "I haven't struggled the way others have." I gave him a look. "Struggle isn't competition." He nodded slowly. The night of the event, he stood on stage in a simple suit, no theatrics. In his speech, he didn't mention rankings or accolades. He talked about perception, about almost mistaking humility for limitation, about learning that dignity doesn't need rebranding. He didn't use my name. He didn't need to. Afterwards, as we walked back to the truck, he was quiet. "Was it okay?" I said, "It was honest." He smiled faintly. "I used to think I had to outgrow you," he admitted. "And now? I think I had to understand you." That was enough. Because this story was never about a dean calling my name. It was about a son recalibrating what strength looks like. Not loud, not polished, steady. And sometimes the real turning point isn't when a room applauds. It's when the person who once stepped 2 paces ahead chooses to walk beside you instead.